Hello and welcome. My name is Jake Fortney. This is JakeFortneyFitness, and today we're going to be going over a heated topic in the bodybuilding industry. It's IIFYM versus clean eating. Which one's better? Which one's worse? Benefits, the downfalls of each of them, and essentially IIFYM is if it fits your macros. Basically, it was invented as like a form of flexible dieting type of thing, where if it fits your macros, you can essentially add it in. So basically, people would now people are more they're more taking advantage of the if it fits your macros part and less about the micros part. So they're trying now. It's become like a match, a competition, to see who can fit the most junk food into their diet, whether it be like pop or quote unquote junk food, I should say. Food that lacks micronutrients such as like vitamins and minerals and complex carbs, whatever, fiber, those type of quote unquote clean foods, they lack, so that you might end up with some deficiencies with your total intake. So it may fit your macros, but if you have major deficiencies in your system, like you're not getting enough iron or you're not getting enough calcium or whatever, because the food choices you're making aren't as plentiful in macros, then you might run into some problems. But on the other side, only eating clean foods, quote unquote, which first of all, clean foods is kind of hard to describe because you can't really look at a food and say, oh, that's clean, that's dirty. But most people define it as clean foods are like things like complex carbohydrates, lean proteins, foods that are like high in vitamins and minerals. Now those are all good things, but the thing is, people that follow this quote unquote only eating clean foods diet, they run into some deficiencies too, because they limit themselves to only eating, let's say, oatmeal as their carb in the morning, rice as their carb in the afternoon, and who knows what else. Let's just say sweet potatoes for their carb at like the end of the day, and they just keep cycling that, so they only have a certain amount of food. They might run into deficiencies also if they're only eating the same amount of food, because they're excluding, quote unquote, the dirty foods. So both of these run into some issues. I find that if it fits your macros is more easy to adhere to, I would say. And also, I think it makes more sense to take an approach that combines both of these. And this is proposed by Eric Helms. He says to be inclusive versus exclusive with your if it fits your macros. And what does that mean? That means if you still want to have some ice cream as like your treat or whatever, if you want to eat out every once in a while, whatever. That's the whole reason this was invented, was for flexible dieting. So once you hit your micro targets, let's say, so let's say your micros being your vitamins, minerals, that type of thing. Okay, what if you get your quote unquote clean foods in, such as oatmeal, whatever, your fruits, your vegetables, and you hit your macros and you still have macros left, there's no reason to exclude certain foods that could still end up hitting your macros. So if you hit your macros, so let's say you needed 3.5 grams potassium, okay, and you have, let's say, 3.6, and it's already halfway into the day. If we were just looking at this by itself, then technically it would make, if you wanted to, it would make sense to add in some food that would be quote unquote not clean, which I know many people are like, oh, well, you got to be clean the whole time or else you're not really doing it right. Well, that doesn't really fall into the realm of possibility for some people. I mean, if you follow this diet for a week and then on Saturday night you binge, you're like, oh, well, I didn't have clean foods today, then you just go crazy and you get, oh, whatever, then you fall off the wagon. and then you're in trouble. But if it fits your macros, if you follow your micros and then you fill those out, then you have extra room to get in some of the foods that you might like a little bit better than, let's say, your bland, like traditional bodybuilding foods. So this is more of the conventional, this is the more new. Both of them definitely have their cons. I think it's more along the lines of people don't necessarily understand if it fits your macros. They're thinking only about macros, but really this should be M for and micros. So that's basically my take on it, be inclusive versus exclusive. So include the good foods, the quote-unquote good foods, the clean foods, to hit your micro values, so that way you don't have any deficiencies in your calcium, your potassium, your vitamin A, your vitamin C, whatever, because that will hinder your progress. And then after that, if you want to keep having quote-unquote clean foods, go ahead. But you can essentially, after you hit your macros, you can use whatever other foods that you want to hit your macros, and it's going to have little to no effect. So that's basically my take on if it fits your macros versus clean eating. This is Jake Fortney. This is Jake Fortney Fitness.